Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pieter Siekerman. I'm with DNA Inc. I write a blog, XR Developer News. And for that, I read a lot and I watch a lot. And there's a few people in Europe, which I really respect, who publish a lot and also follow the industry quite closely. And where you see sort of, they think a lot about it, they do a lot of analysis. And I thought it would be fun to get them on a stage together. So there's a good chance that you all know at least one of them. They're quite well known. But they're not just well known, I've got the idea that they know what they're talking about. Let me quickly pull up my notes. I approached them a few months back. They were crazy enough to say yes, all of them, so I'm really happy that this came together. Let's introduce them one by one. I know Gabriele because he's from the Netherlands, like me. He has XR AI Spotlight. Let me pull up the right slide. There we go. Maybe you can tell a bit about what you do. And,
Absolutely. My name is Gabriele Romagnoli. I am the founder of XR AI Spotlight. It's a platform that gives the stage to founders and creatives, showing basically the coolest stuff that there is right now in XR and AI. It goes from tool, apps, maybe tech updates, so everything to help people stay up to date with what's now in tech these days.
So I'm a big fan of the deep interviews in the YouTube channel. They're really good. So recommendation, check those out. They're excellent. Tony, weekly blog, but you can tell us a bit more about what you do.
So hello everyone, I'm Antony Vitillo. Someone knows me as the Scarred Ghost or the guy that screams at Ori in Bar's keynotes. And I've been in the XR space for 11 years, suffering a lot and trying to make my passion my work. Mostly I'm tech guy, making the CTO, the tech leader, the developer in various startups, and I've also blogged that someone reads about immersive realities.
Thank you. Very welcome that you're here. Cassandra, you have a YouTube channel, Cas and Chary VR, or XR nowadays?
Nowadays XR, yes.
Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, so I'm Cas. Well, most people know me by Cas from the YouTube channel called Cas and Chary XR. We cover XR, dedicated content about XR, VR headset reviews, AR glasses, smart glasses, those kind of things. And we've been doing it for 9 years, so I usually say that I eat, sleep, VR, and repeat.
And finally, last but not least, no one is least, but definitely not you as well, David Heaney from UploadVR and the VR Download podcast. You publish a lot as a journalist, but you also do a weekly podcast. Tell us a bit more.
Yeah, I'm David Heaney from UploadVR. As you say, we try to cover everything happening in VR and AR as much as we can, and I also live and sleep and eat VR. I am obsessed with the technology. I have been for around a decade now, and it's been incredible to watch the journey as it advances.
I think that's a commonality between all of you. What I did, I asked them all to come up with sort of a few things that stood out to them in 2025, and a few things they're really curious about in 2026. And I thought it would be interesting because you guys follow everything. So you sort of know what's coming. So just the regular news is maybe sort of you already know. So I was quite curious sort of what you would pick out. We ended up with a list of 10 different topics. I've got a simple slide for each one of them. We'll go through them one by one. We might jump between topics. And it depends on how fast we go, whether we even get through them all. So we'll see. And I asked for each topic one person to intro, and then the rest could jump in. David was a bit of a late addition, so he'll just butt in whenever he wants, but he hasn't got a specific topic. So let's kick it off with the first topic, and that is Google and Samsung entering the market with Android XR and Galaxy XR. Cassandra, you brought this one up.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one because, you know, it's Samsung's comeback into the VR industry. They had the headset before years ago, and then they, I don't know, discontinued it. Same for Google, but now they are back, and it seems like they are back for real this time because the headset is built very interestingly. I think the most exciting part for me is that it has AI integration, but then not just, like on MetaQuest, where it feels a little bit like a voice assistant. On this headset, it really feels like a headset assistant. Like you can ask it to open apps, but also if you say, yeah, take me to Brussels, for example, it will open Google Maps, and then it will actually put you there, and then you can actually walk through it in Street View in VR, in an immersive way. Just one of the few examples that I'm really excited about, because I think if you integrate AI in a headset like this, then you can do a lot, because the headset can see what you're seeing, and it can kind of almost predict what you want to do. So I think that's very exciting. What about you guys?
No, I mean, I think that this is maybe probably the example where AI didn't come as an afterthought. When you have like a quest, then we have the pass-through, hey, how do we attach to it? Now with this instead, it was born with it in mind, right? And this has all sorts of implications. What I wonder is a bit, and maybe Antony is a bit also the idea, for who is this, right? Is this for the consumer? Is this for the aficionado? Is this for enterprises?
Yeah, so I think as a product, this is really just the start of their partnership. This is obviously still a very high-end product. It's very limited launch. It's more about just setting the foundation. Fundamentally, as a product, it's an Apple Vision Pro for people in the Android ecosystem, but it's more about what it means next. On the Android XR part as a software, when are we going to see this on other headsets is a big question. Will this be the operating system that's on other headsets? We're going to go into 2026 with, in theory, Horizon OS, Android XR, and Valve recently said that SteamOS, they would not have a problem with it running on other headsets, so you can take that as possibly they would. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see, over time, does this partnership stay very, very tight-knit, Samsung, Google, and they're all just kind of always Samsung headset first and the other partnerships after, or will it be the Android of XR, which everyone wants to be, right? Mark Zuckerberg was saying just a year ago that he wants Horizon OS to be the Android of XR, ironic given that there is an Android XR, but I think for me, the headset itself, it's an interesting product, but it's still just more about the foundations it sets for the partnership here of these companies.
And I'm quite curious. Some of you have had this on and tried it. It's positioned to compete with Apple, Vision Pro, and Vision OS. How do you see it pulling its weight, especially the Samsung hardware, against the Meta part of the spectrum, which is a very different type of thoughts on that?
So are you asking how does this compare to the Quest?
Yeah, do you think it has a good competitive position against the Quest? Because it's competing in that space as well.
Nah, I think it's completely different personally. So, I mean, I see that one is like, Quest is the king of entertainment, cheap, everybody uses it, there are a huge library. This feels like a very different thing. I don't think that this is my personal impression, a competitor.
Yeah, I think they are building it also hand tracking first. Like they're selling the controllers, but it's like a thing that you have to buy separately, and also they keep being out of stock, so it's really hard to get them actually. And MetaQuest, of course, built controller first, and also this headset is also built AI first. Like you said, it's like I do think they're going for a more open system compared to like Apple and MetaQuest.
I want to ask you a question because I have not tried the headset, and so you have tried it multiple times. But do we really need AI in a mixed reality visor? I mean, I can imagine much of uses with smart glasses and AR glasses, but with a sky goggle, have you found AI to be really useful or just a gimmick?
Well, I have to say that my experience with it was like in a very controlled environment during Google's keynote and also Samsung's keynote. So I didn't get to try as much, but I think David has tried a lot. But there's one example I wanted to talk about is that what I'm very excited about as a gamer is that I saw a post by a Steam Frame enthusiast called Sadly It's Bradley. He was using this headset and playing Half-Life Alyx, a PC VR game. And in that game, there's a lot of like Russian language. So what he did in the video, I saw him playing that game, and then he saw the text, and he would like draw a circle around the Russian text, and Gemini would just pull up like multitasking, and he will just translate the text, and then he can also find like extra information about that text or about the game. That kind of contextual information you're getting is very cool, because it's like in a game, it's like you have like a personal walkthrough assistant for your game. that kind of stuff is, I think, could be really powerful. But of course, David is actually reviewing the headset, so I think he has more insight on this.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously very interesting. When you get, because this is an extension of Android and not just the open source Android, but Google's Android, you do get all of these services by default. You get Gemini, you get Maps, you get Chrome. But just, I am in the middle of reviewing it. Coming back to it as a Quest competitor, I think this is very much so through and through a Vision Pro competitor. And in fact, there's reliable reporting to indicate that once Samsung saw the Vision Pro revealed in the middle of 2023, they scrapped what they were doing and went back to the drawing board. There's multiple South Korean outlets that reported that. Mirroring something that happened with Android originally when the iPhone was revealed. There are multiple people who were on that team who have come out and said they scrapped what they were doing and restarted it. And I think maybe what they were doing before would have looked a bit more like Quest, but now it doesn't. But the interesting question is, how do they get to a Quest competitor? And I don't think Samsung does. I think when you have a partnership like this, a hardware company wants to make a margin. They want to make a premium product with a large margin. If you want to get a true Quest competitor, you need either Google subsidizing low-cost hardware, or you need to see some of the Chinese OEMs like Xiaomi or someone come in and do what's happening in the Android market right now in the phones.
Yeah. Okay, let's jump to Gaussian splats in VR. Pretty amazing. You brought this one up, Gabriele.
Yes, I did. And
Go for
the
it.
reason for it is because I didn't expect a lot of these companies that are somehow invested in Gaussian splatting to get into VR. Maybe just a question to the audience. Who knows what are So
This is the right audience.
I don't need to say what they are, right? So that we move forward. So you see then companies like, for example, let's say word labs, right? That allows to generate these words completely from an image, and there is a VR viewer inside. You see, and then of course, Hyperscape, right? Where it says, okay, now we are seeing that you can scan your environment and get people's in. Recently, right? So you can invite people in the environment that you have scanned. And on top of it, you see also persona that are also this representation from Apple, from your avatar, that are also Gaussian splats based. So you see that there is this kind of like interesting new form of 3D that seems to be more suitable than meshes to be experienced in a spatial environment. And on top of it, they are super easy to create. Like, because can you generate something like this just from an image? I mean, I'm fired up. I mean, that's really the moment that I really like get excited because it's really becomes super accessible. If we don't talk about Scaniverse, if we don't talk about, let's say, Gracia that allows you to experience this animated splat, I think it's pretty insane. And it's really like a bit the mission, what drives me in general to get this technology accessible, and when everybody can do it, that's really what got me excited. And I didn't expect it to be this far, this early.
Yeah, I think Gaussian splats have kind of come out of left field as this technology that is accelerating 3D reconstruction in the same sense that large language models came along and chatbots that could pass the Turing test went from something that people thought would happen in 2040 or 2050. There are so many of the things that Gaussian splatting is doing in VR today that if you had asked someone 4 years ago, they would have said, oh, in the 2030s, we might get that. So it's this kind of supercharging technology. It's kind of a shortcut to photorealism. And this demo here that's on screen, this Hyperscape thing, I just tried it last week. My boss, Kyle, scanned his home. I went and visited him as a meta avatar. Now, the avatar part is obviously, cartoon and silly, but we're only just a few years away from being able to have, full-body photorealistic avatars in that sense. And at that point, you're essentially talking about teleportation. And these things are so real that I scanned my kitchen. I went into my office, and the first thing I did was walked into a wall because I thought I was in my kitchen. And I've been in VR for 10 years. I spend hundreds of hours a month in VR. I never thought I would do that again. But it just shows you how remarkable it is that we're already at this point with 3D reconstruction.
I did exactly the same thing. I actually walked into a wall because I scanned my garden. And then it also works outside. You even get the sky. So it's really, really kind of a technological marvel, I think, because I tried different versions of Gaussian splats in VR. There's one by Vario as well. But it wasn't as easy to scan your room and your house and your garden than as Hyperscape. Hyperscape is really, really well done. And just imagine being able to take memories that way of like, I don't know, your childhood home or something, and then being able to, I don't know, let your kids later, like 50 years or so from now, have them look at your house that you spent your time in while you were a child. that kind of thing is going to be really, really powerful, I think.
Yeah, but there is one thing, is that now we are always talking, we tend to now talk about Hyperscape. I mean, Gaussian splatting is not just Hyperscape. I mean, there are so many apps, tools like Supersplat, open source, on the web. There is a huge library that people can access. There are some, I don't know if it's here, probably it's not. There is this guy, David Heaney, who is making scan of insects. They are insane. Like, it's just incredible to see 3D represented in that way. So I think that I've built a list of all the apps to view Gaussian splatting in VR. It keeps growing. There are words in VR chat. They are insane. There are some people from Japan, they've created this word in VR chat. I'm going to send it to you if you want. Subscribe to the newsletter. I'm going to send you the link. But it's like insane. The first time I was like stepping in, the splats get animated. It's very exciting.
But for me, apart from Hyperscape, which actually we keep mentioning it because it's super easy to be used. I remember trying also Teleport by Vario. I tried to make the first scan, was a bit crap, to be honest. With Hyperscape, I'm totally very bad at making scan, etc. I was able to scan the room, it worked very well, so super cool. But another thing, if you want to mention another app that gave me a wow moment, where they animated moving people in Gracia, or whatever is the pronunciation, because that was a moving splat of some people doing something, and I was like, oh wow, these people are like here with me. It was insane for me.
Yeah, Hyperscape definitely is the most impressive, but one you mentioned earlier I really want to bring up because it really blew me away was Marble from World Labs. It was a company that was like founded last year by Fei Li, who's one of the kind of innovators in AI in general and computer vision. And the fact that you can feed it a single image. So Hyperscape, you're walking around your house for maybe 5 to 10 minutes. This is feeding hundreds, if not thousands, of posed images. The headset's obviously providing the pose. With this World Labs Marble, you feed it a single image. And in a matter of minutes, Hyperscape takes 8 hours. In a matter of minutes, this generates a splat that you can go around in VR. So Marble, I think you mentioned it earlier, really impressive.
Wow.
By the way, sorry, I'm going to shut up after this, I promise. But maybe a lot of people don't know that Marble now also accepts a 3D prompt. So this means that you can add like a mock-up of an environment with purely just blocks or add simple 3D assets, and that acts as a prompt. So you can even have much more control over that generation. And that's huge because we always complain about the control on AI, generative AI. Then you can have a mock-up of a space and have it then turn into a splat.
No,
Sorry.
I was just wondering where you can try Marvel.
In Marble. So if you go to Marble.
Yeah, it's a WebXR app, so you can try it without installing anything. You go onto your Quest or Apple Vision Pro's web browser, you just search Marble World Labs in Google, you can feed it a prompt or an image, and in WebXR it goes straight into a splat. Really remarkable stuff. And obviously it's not of the quality of Hyperscape, but again, one image, 2 minutes versus hundreds of images, 8 hours.
Very cool.
I find this one interesting because you were positive across the board, while the other topics were a bit more split, but this one amazed you all, I think, this year. So it's fun to see this kind of development happening. We'll go into the next one. There was a bit of news over the last 2-3 weeks, sort of cuts, but also sort of roadmap clarity a bit more. So yeah, I'm curious, Tony, you brought this one up. You were expecting a bit more on the VR MR side at MetaConnect. Maybe you can tell a bit more.
We all were. We just went. This was my first Connect, by the way. I was pretty excited, and I said, let's see what is going to happen. And basically, the whole event was about smart glasses and Horizon Worlds. I mean, just summarizing. We VR people were, were just enough to hear once Mark Zuckerberg say metaverse. He said the word once, and we're already happy. He said Quest once in 2 hours, and we're already happy. So because we were trying still to see some VR somewhere. But actually, the whole event was about what Meta seemed most promising, which is the smart glasses, because they're selling like hotcakes. I mean, they're really having a big success. So of course, they are, doubling the investment on them. And then Horizon Worlds, which I guess it's a big passion of Mark. I mean, he loves taking selfies there, so probably he's keeping putting money so that he can keep doing that in front of the Tour Eiffel and etc. But we know that they're keeping investing in VR and MR. I mean, David can mention the rumor that he published on Sunday or whatever, but it's something more long-term. Now it seems more, not the present, but more the future. I don't know, David, if you agree a bit.
Yeah, I think as you say, MetaConnect 2025 definitely was mostly about smart glasses. And as you say, in all of the past earnings calls, Meta has told its investors, we are seeing smart glasses sales skyrocket. We're selling them as fast as we can make them. Meanwhile, Quest headset sales are down year over year for like the past 3 quarters in a row. So you can see why they're going to make that prioritization. At the same time, though, we are just after 2 headsets in a row in 2023 and 2024. We were only 2 years into Quest 3. We weren't really expecting a new VR headset as much as people were kind of hoping for that. You know, if you read UploadVR the day before, we would have said, there is not going to be a new headset on this. We're 100% certain. But at the same time, yes, you would expect more. One thing is, though, that they have started to move their AAA game announcements into the summer to things like the Game Awards and things like that, and the game show, so that they can have more mainstream coverage. So in some years at MetaConnect, you would have seen, you know, a giant blockbuster game, but in the past 2 years, they would have done that separately. So if they hadn't have done that, you would have seen, you know, Deadpool VR announced, and people say, oh, that's something big for VR. But some of that is perception, but some of it is very real.
I'm quite curious to see how next year will be, because there will be news, if you see the roadmap, probably about the mixed reality side of things, but no, it makes... So, quite curious there. In a related topic, you dropped this one, Gabriele.
I mean, I think
Explain.
I think we are all sad about it. Like,
what do you mean? Maybe explain the statement a bit more.
I mean, we start Quest 2 moment, right? The pass-through is great, and we got this promise, right? After the Quest Pro that was super expensive, like more expensive, that, okay, now we're gonna get color pass-through with all the amazing room features. And it's like, okay, this is gonna break through. This is finally going mainstream. Why? Because people complain that they are isolated when they are in VR, that their environment, they cannot see the environments. And so this is really gonna make a difference. Mixed reality is gonna make a difference in adoption. And on top of this, Quest 3S, super cheap, everybody's gonna jump on board. And that didn't work out. And I don't know why. I don't know why. Help me.
It's your fault, probably.
It's my fault.
Yeah, with Shape XR, you didn't help people.
But are you looking through it from the glasses of like MR games?
Yeah, so that's being one, probably, let's say, the MR games, but more from like the impact that having something like this would make also on the headset, on a whole. Like, wouldn't more people be willing to get into it? Because, again, those problems are not there yet. Like, cheaper, not being seen outside, but that was not enough. So that was like first gaming and content, and hoping that to have an impact on the broader XR space.
Well, I think I will beg to differ here, but I'm looking at it from the glasses of like productivity, because I use the headset in color pass-through a lot more now. Like, I don't use it like in VR anymore, actually. I actually use VR headsets a lot more just to spawn multiple screens and work in there or watch movies or play 2D games. And I think there are different, like, I think if people understand how cool that is actually to do it in VR, because we also have like 3D immediately, I think this is gonna be a really big thing. But right now, I think there's just restraints of comfort with the headsets, like Quest. And that's why maybe people are not really buying the headset. I don't think it has to do with mixed reality right now.
Yeah, I want to second that. I think one thing that I want to get across about XR in general is that it's incredibly early. You're talking about the first product that is, you know, at an affordable price point that does color pass-through for regular consumers, right? We're only 2 years into that kind of time. You say it has great pass-through, but it doesn't really, right? The pass-through quality is lower than the VR quality. At launch, it was terrible. It had all this warping distortion. They didn't even have occlusion. They have this high friction problem where to set it up for like a room-aware mixed reality game, you have to scan your room by panning your head around for 30 seconds to a minute, and if someone's standing there, they're stuck in the mesh forever. If you move furniture, it's not reflected. Quest 3 is a good VR headset, but it's actually a very primitive mixed reality headset. And as well as that, some of the use cases you spoke about, where you have virtual screens, where is it really mixed reality? Yes, but you're not playing a mixed reality game, you're just spawning a giant virtual screen. Well, these use cases are much more suitable to headsets that are much more comfortable than either of these things. We're still in the early stage of these being half a kilogram face bricks. And we're going to see that change. And that's when I think you can kind of judge, is mixed reality appealing? The other thing is, it's still very early. Developers are only just playing with this. We've only seen a couple of truly excellent mixed reality games come out. I would encourage you to try Laser Dance, which released last month, I think, which is an incredible mixed reality game and proves that you can make something that is truly on the level of some of the best VR games we've seen, but purely in room-aware mixed reality.
Well, if I can add something, it's, I started working with mixed reality really, I guess it was one of the first, standalone was 2019, it was before, 2 years before the Quest even enabled it. I was taking the HTC, Vive Focus, etc. So I'm a big fan. I was one of the proposers, give us mixed reality, etc. I think at the end of the day, there are a few things. So it succeeded, as Cas said, about giving you the possibility of being in your world, for opening other stuff, or just not, when I'm using mixed reality in the menu, for instance, of the Quest, it's much easier, much cozier, etc. I guess there are also some technical difficulties in using it, like every room is very different, and that's a big problem. You don't know which items the user has on the desk. You don't know how it's made, and also multiplayer. How do you do multiplayer? I remember there was this game, what was Shell Games, and this party game where it made a mix of 3 rooms, a bit in mixed reality, a bit in virtual reality. It's hard to explain without a video, but how do you bring people in your room? Because maybe with Gas and Splats now you can, but if I see him in mixed reality in my room, he's not seeing my room, he's seeing his room. So there are a lot of technical hurdles that I guess we will need a lot of time to solve. For now, it's hard.
Just on the multiplayer thing, one thing that is truly magical about mixed reality, and it's just in the same way that for virtual reality, playing it multiplayer for the first time, where you have someone embodied beside you, you're hearing positional voice, that's incredible. For mixed reality, it's about local multiplayer, I think. If you ever play a co-located mixed reality game, you have this image here, you have a virtual board game, and it's like a board game, but all the characters are moving, or maybe you have enemies coming in through the roof, and you're playing together. It's such a... The problem, of course, is that so few people have multiple headsets in their home. And of course, the comfort isn't great for that. You don't want to wear a headset like this for multiple hours. But once we get that comfort issue solved, once it's more common for people to be in the same home together with multiple headsets, I think that's where mixed reality really, really shines.
Yeah, I think Demio is actually a really good example. They nailed co-location mixed reality, where you can put like a game board on top of like a coffee table, and then if you have multiple headsets, you can sync that up to the multiple headsets, and then you can all walk around the room as is it's like an AR game or something. It's very, very magical. And I've been in VR for 9 years, and it still really wowed me. Like that first moment you put on the VR headset, it was that kind of same experience.
I'm curious, you interviewed Thomas van Bouwel, who created Laser Dance quite recently, also discussed the challenges he had building that game. What you expect, and maybe you as well, sort of when these kind of experiences at that level of true sort of environment understanding and making use of your room, that kind of thing, one that will become more common. Because indeed, it's hard now, but will we see more like that next year already? Or is it so early that it's going to take 2 or 3 more years and different devices?
I don't know. I think the biggest question is what's the incentives for developers to keep developing for these platforms? Right? Is there an option for them to still keep building what they love and invest in this technology and having a market for it? Because at the end, I mean, we are going to get people that keep building cool stuff. And don't get me wrong, I believe that there are a lot of mixed reality experiences that are mind-blowing, right? I mean, I'm not saying that. It's just that, are we going to see more? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to see more, because it's expensive, it's tricky, there aren't a lot of these headsets on the market.
Any other games like that you're anticipating? Or
and honestly,
like
sorry, just one thing. I would think maybe, like full immersive VR, maybe a better bet, because it's less technologically challenging, and I would rather invest in something like that takes full advantage of something that is 500 grams on your face, than build something in MR that takes 3 years to build for Laser Dance.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That is the biggest issue with mixed reality development in terms of building a game that it takes advantage of the user environment. Everyone's home is different, as Thomas obviously found out in developing that game. It's an incredible game, and on the surface of it, simple, and you can complete it within a few hours. But the development of it is a nightmare to try and handle every possible shape of every possible room that every possible player might have and build a game around that. building game mechanics is already difficult when you are the developer that controls the entire virtual world. When it now has to take place in someone's living room, the more complicated things get, the more you're just going to run into, how do you even test that, right? There are obviously certain automated ways you can do this. There are some companies that offer mixed reality testing and they just own a bunch of different homes. But at the end of the day, there's no real way to know that someone's going to come with a house that they built themselves in a completely different shape to what you're expecting, furniture all over the place. There's no way to know. Potentially, AI will be able to be a help here where you can describe the general gameplay and it can figure out, well, how do I make that actually work in this person's apartment? But that, you're right to say that that is a huge open challenge and it makes it a lot more difficult to develop a mixed reality game than a VR game, which is already incredibly difficult to make a VR game.
Let's switch to the next one. So this is heavily outdated. Puffin is no more, I think. Phoenix is now the latest, if we saw the news this weekend. I originally had you in mind, but you actually published an article about this very recently about Meta's roadmap and the news there. Maybe you can intro this one.
Sure, yeah, I'll just do an intro for people who aren't real aware of this. So Puffin is just one of the code names of candidates. They have multiple candidates for this headset. Other names have included Phoenix and Loma. But the code names are not really descriptive in any way. What we expect and what we have seen, other outlets like The Information and the Wall Street Journal have reported on this as well, is that Meta's plan for their next headset is to launch something that will run the same Horizon OS as Quest, but not standalone, in a tethered compute puck. And the reason that it will do that is so that it can be a much, much, much lighter headset. Rumors are placing it somewhere on the order of 100 to 150 grams. You're talking big screen beyond level of weight, on a headset that would have also an open periphery. So like the Samsung Galaxy XR, by default, it's not touching your face, it's resting lightly on your forehead. And of course, this would be optimized around virtual screens. So many of the things we've just discussed, we've just said, well, this would be good for most people, but the comfort's not there yet. I think that is well understood. The fundamental problem with VR and AR today, or VR and mixed reality, sorry, today for many people, is that they just do not want to wear a half a kilogram brick on their face. If you can give them something more appealing that is around 150 grams, that becomes a much more interesting product for mainstream markets, especially when it comes to the use cases. You were talking about your virtual screen, right? You're watching a 4K HDR movie on a giant cinema screen while you are, working. That's how I travel with the Vision Pro these days on an airplane. I have my work here as a Mac Virtual Display and behind it a cinema screen. But of course my head hurts after the flight because of the Vision Pro. But if I could do that with a 150 gram headset, that would be a very different proposition.
Cassandra, Tony, looking forward to this?
Yeah, 100%. I don't know as much about the rumors as David, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like something I would definitely want to try, because that's the most I'm doing in VR right now, doing the mirroring.
Well, I'm pretty excited about this. Apart from...
Does it look like?
Huh?
It doesn't look.
That's my excitement face.
Okay, okay,
I'm like Steven Seagal, always the same face in every single of the movies. So it's, apart from the picture, which that, as David said, having the headset getting lighter, it's one of the main things that we need to do, apart from the price, the content, use cases, and other million things, of which you always say that we need 5 to 10 years for XR to become mainstream. But I guess also on UploadVR, I read another article, not related to Meta, but a Chinese startup called Galaxy XR, which made these glasses that are lighter than 100 grams even, and they're not smart glasses, they are mixed reality headset. So you're like, we are getting to the point where really maybe on the plane I can put one of these glasses and work there, which is super cool for me, for instance.
Yeah, and look, a lot of people may already be thinking, wait, I have this with my X-Real or my Viture glasses today. They're very light, I'm on a plane. The difference is that they have a field of view of around 40 to 50 degrees, so you can't really make an enormous virtual screen, or you can only see part of it. With this headset, we're talking about a pass-through VR-style system. This is passing through cameras to micro OLED displays in front of a pancake lens, right? What we're all used to for VR. That means you get a field of view of around 90 degrees, so you can actually see a full virtual workspace instead of only a slice of it. So that's what makes this really interesting. People could just, it's arguable whether it's still a headset at that point. You may even call it mixed reality glasses, for example.
Yeah, fair.
There is just one thought that I had here. Like this cable and this puck, right? We have been fighting like years. So we said, okay, we want to go standalone, and now we are saying, okay, it's fine. No, we need to have a pack. Is this the way to go? Like in a sense, like is it accepted if the weight is in your pocket, then it's fine as long as it's in your face? Because it could be a solution, right? I'm not criticizing it. But what's your take on it? Is that enough?
I just say no one knows. That's why the companies are trying and what sticks, it works.
One thing is that at pretty much every company before Vision Pro was announced, they all would have said internally when one of the engineers brought this up, no, could you imagine Apple ever doing that? And of course, Apple was the first major consumer tech company to present this. And you can understand that the day after, all of these same engineers at these other companies said, look, they did it, and then everyone else started to do it. Apple is able to make these things acceptable. There is a trade-off, though. You're right to say there is a trade-off. You never forget that there is that cable coming out of your head. I snag the cable all the time in the Vision Pro. But it's about trade-offs. I don't think it's going to be the way to go, but it will be one way to go. You'll have different form factors, just like you have in laptops, just like you have in cars and trucks and bicycles. There's different form factors for different use cases. This kind of headset will be more ideal for sitting on a plane and watching a movie while you're working, or doing these things in any other portable scenario. But if you want to do room scale gaming, if you want to play laser dance, I think you're going to still want a fully standalone headset where it puts the computing battery either in the front or at the rear, right? You're not going to want to constantly snag a cable playing something like that.
Yeah, and I can only say from my own perspective on this, like I also can't say if it's going to work or not, but I would say I don't mind it. I mean, there's always like mods available where you can like put it like as a necklace or something, or put it on your back, and then it doesn't really bother me as much. And I think for gaming, yes, it's a bit tougher, but there are also other pros if they make it like hot swappable, for example. It's really nice to have like that unlimited power. So I don't know, but I don't mind it.
Let's switch gears a bit. Lightweight XR glasses. You're wearing the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses.
Yes.
You brought this one up.
Yes,
what can you tell us?
The thing is, I'm wearing the Meta Ray-Ban display glasses right now, so it has like one display on the right lens. And I'm really excited about these kind of glasses, even though it's very different from VR. But I do feel like it's the thing that could get XR a little bit more mainstream. I feel like these kind of glasses, you can't do a lot, but you do get like contextual information. It's really easy to understand. It's accessible, except for the price. But announce it, it's gotten really popular. Like, I think they are trying to make more of them, but they are selling them out as they're making them, which I don't know for sure if that's true, but that is what it feels like when you look like at YouTube numbers or not. So, which is why I'm super excited about these kind of glasses. It's kind of like a childhood dream come true, having like, I don't know if anyone watched Dragon Ball Z before, but they had these like AR kind of glasses before where you can see like the level of like a character in front of you. This is kind of reminds me of that. So it's like a childhood dream come true.
Do you use these as a daily driver now? Do you have them on every day?
Well, in the US, where the navigation works, yes, I do use them a lot. But here, because I think one of the killer features is the navigation, going outside, not having to reach for your phone to know you have to walk left or right. It's so simple, but so cool, so magical, kind of.
Yeah, I strongly agree on that one. One of the things I hate most in this world is you get to a new city, you're trying to navigate on foot, you're either staring down at your phone or looking at this tiny little smartwatch screen. The navigation is incredible. As you say, though, it's limited to these 28 cities, so that kind of sucks. But it's interesting that we kind of go from 2 years ago, the smart glasses not having any displays for consumer products at least, the headsets being these bulky things, and now they're going to kind of go in the direction of each other in a sense. These glasses are going to get more and more capability, the headsets are going to kind of shrink. I'm not saying there's going to be a convergence, but it is interesting to see the kind of paths going there.
I'd even say that they start getting more pronounced in sort of different use cases as we see them more and try them more. I'm curious, Tony, you try all sorts of hardware as well, different types of glasses. You see spectacles coming up with display, specs being announced, you see these kind of things. Does it feel like it to you that we're starting to be at the beginning of this and that this is actually happening, or is this still far away?
Well, like Cory said, I stopped making predictions because I was there when we keep saying next year is the year of VR, it's coming, and the varifocal displays and all the crazy technologies that never arrived. But Jokes apart, I agree with what everyone said about seeing the potential and finally seeing something getting with a good, let's say, form factor. I mean, even Orion, even if it was just a marketing stunt, basically showed us for the first time, oh, AR glasses with the FOV and a good form factor, shown something that works, even if it's a prototype. So we are starting to see that it's arriving, but if it is in 3 years, 5 years, or 6 years, we don't know, but at least we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, I would say.
There definitely are significant concerns around the social acceptability of the form factor. On some people, they look good. On some people, they don't. I wore it for a month or so straight, every single day, all day, as much as I could for my review. And I asked people in my circle, and my friends and family and acquaintances to give me their frank view. And some of them said, that looks terrible. You look awful. And others said, stick glasses are kind of in style at the moment. But as you add more and more capabilities, right? These current glasses are obviously monocular. They only have one display. More weight, well then do you want a wider field of view so you can do things like virtual screens? That's more bulk and more weight. And even though I don't think the weight is actually the biggest issue, because of the way that it's distributed, I find it very comfortable. But there is a social acceptability problem of wearing glasses that look this thick and this bulky. And I wonder, will the advantages of AR to maybe people that don't care, of course. But there's always going to be, in the mass market, people do care of these things, and I think that's the biggest concern with these advanced AR glasses.
I've seen that the stronger someone's beard is, the more it offsets the big glasses, so perhaps it's a new trend setting. It's a good jump into the next topic, which is very related. As these things come onto the market and get to consumers and enterprises, you'll start seeing all different kind of use cases. Now it's a 2D display, more a heads-up display, but you see spectacles and specs coming. You brought this one up around use cases. Tell us more.
Yeah, I think because what's actually really exciting is that now people are going to start thinking, because the limitations are there and because the use case is different, about utility. So when you think about spectacles, right, very often you still see all these kind of like games and it's like interactions. But if you're going to wear those glasses every day, there must be a use. And only if they're useful enough, then people will accept wearing them, and also people in the closed circle. So I think this is the switch of mentality of these people that have been building games, interactivity, and moving into what can be useful. And actually, you, Peter, did a good job. I mean, that example on spectacles with the hands, and it's like navigation, was built on spectacles. But again, it shows, okay, navigation is clearly a use case. But what about, again, now we're going to the obvious, right? Translation, okay, right. But what else there is? Like, can I be reminded of something that happened during my day? Are there other ways to add, where audio, video, the camera, and the AI all merge together to give me something that is truly valuable? I think we need to answer that questions, because I don't think that on those things games are going to fly.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is still going to be virtual screens. As boring as that sounds, the ability to have screens, people love their phone screen. They love the bigger phones. People buy the biggest phone they can possibly get so that they can watch content all day long. The ability to have screens that are essentially magically floating wherever you want at any time is itself a killer app. When you're doing a chore or something, when you're on the bus, when you're traveling around the street, people want to still continue to watch things. They can either stare down at a phone like this and bump into a wall, or kind of, you ever see people on the plane hold their phone up like this for the entire flight? Some of these use cases are going to be the same as for the headsets, except you get greater portability, I think. So a lot of the use cases people imagine of AR glasses, yes, navigation is going to matter, yes, translation, but I think a lot of it is just going to be virtual screens.
Well, what about Pokemon Go on the spectacles? I mean, that's kind of another childhood dream. I mean, we've got Pokemon Go on mobile, and how popular it was before is because it got people moving, but also it was their childhood dream to like catch Pokemon outside. Now imagine that on these kind of glasses, and then feeling like you're actually doing it for real instead of watching a little screen, but feeling like it's actually there. I think that could be a really, really, really good at.
I think you're definitely right about that. We talked earlier about the advantages of co-located mixed reality, so you're indoors playing a multiplayer game together. Well, when you take that to AR glasses and have co-located outdoor gaming, you meet your friend at the park and you are, having a Pokemon battle or something like that, or whatever kind of gameplay you want to imagine. That is something that could actually be a lot more useful for gaming, where again, I think for both mixed reality and AR, the multiplayer co-located aspect, there's nothing like that today other than kind of a real physical event which is limited by physics, that this can do, all of your childhood dreams, all of the things you're imagining. And so I think as well, in the United States, when people are talking about mixed reality co-location, they talk about doing it outside in some of these sunny states. But here, as we all know, you couldn't do that with one of these headsets because it will rain. But but with smart glasses and AR glasses, you can imagine designs that are actually IP waterproof enough to not park, right, in this country at least. But would you bring a pair of, slightly water-resistant glasses? Yes, you would, if you could just put it back in your pocket after it rains.
If we bring it back from true AR glasses to what you're wearing right now, you've used it quite a bit, you've used it quite a bit. I'm not sure about you guys, whether you had a chance already. Meta just released public access to its wearables device access toolkit. Sorry, the name is long, which is only camera and speakers and microphone, but at some point there will be a display SDK, whether it's on the glasses or on your phone. I'm curious which sort of apps you would want the first, because there's only a limited set on the glasses now. It's the Meta apps, it's a few basic Photos apps and navigation and that kind of thing. What are the things you would find the most useful straight away?
I think for me, it's just mirroring notifications. So right now, you do get notifications for WhatsApp and Instagram and Meta properties. All I wanted to do is something that my Fitbit does in a worse way, is someone sends me an email, I'm walking along the street or I'm doing chores, both of my hands are full. I want to be able to just quickly read that email and see, is this something I need to run back to my computer and start working right now, or is this something I can ignore? Today, my pocket vibrates, I pull my phone out of my pocket, I look at this. And maybe to some people you say that that's not a massive convenience jump, but remember the convenience is pretty much what elevates all technological shifts. You could argue against the smartphone by saying, oh, well, I already have a laptop in my backpack. If I want to look something up, I'll just take my laptop out and fold it out. And you, in theory, could do that, right? That could be a decent counterfactual argument against the iPhone, and yet it's about the every notification be able to be screened on my face, which is something I'm surprised Meta hasn't done with their glasses. The other thing, of course, is as good as the navigation is, I want Google Maps. As we say over and over again, it really is the Achilles heel of this product. The navigation is amazing. I love being able to walk along and not have to look down and know where I'm going next. But without Google Maps, all I'm thinking is I want Google Maps.
Yeah, I agree with that one. Like notifications is definitely something that they really, really want to add. And then I want to add one more use case I find really, really useful, but that also has to do with my job, which is teleprompting in these glasses, where you have like your script just in front of your work before presentations, when you can just walk around, have your hands free, and maybe using the neuroband you can navigate the presentation, but then you can keep being engaged with your audience, look at your audience, while having your script fully, so you don't never say anything wrong.
It's quite useful because I'm constantly checking my notes.
Yeah, exactly. Better than the piece of paper.
My understanding is that actually is the next feature they're adding in the next few months, the teleprompter app. So you will get what you want, my understanding, in the next few months.
On these glasses?
Yes, that is Meta's next feature update is teleprompter. That's my understanding.
I love it.
Antony, you built a long list of mixed reality apps. Lots of those are out of reach of what you've future, but anything in there, in the stuff you've experienced there, where you're sort of eager to see that on early generations of true AR glasses?
So I'm not sure, because I've always been a big fan of these, let's say, creative apps, right? So everything that allows you to create. But again, I'm not sure that these are made to create, both because I'm a strong believer that to create you need controllers, you need buttons, and with hands, I just don't see that happening at a level that is satisfying enough. So I'm not sure. When I'm really stepping into this when it comes to these AR glasses with a big question mark. So what's going to be useful? What's going to be the utility that goes around it? And I personally, despite all the idea of the Pokemon Go and also of the big screens, I don't want to believe that it's like we are looking in the world and we'll be looking at notifications and screens in front of our face. I don't have an answer. But I believe that it has to do maybe with the space around us. For example, telling us maybe something, maybe having messages left around by people that you can, for example, can experience when you do a travel. Because that seems like, for example, a matching of a great experience. You know where things are, where you go. Maybe you can get a message that someone left or some contextual information around it. So I come up with this new technology that, despite convenient, it's more breakthrough. It's something that we haven't experienced before. And I don't have an answer.
Let's switch one more. Because you were curious what Valve was going to do. That's actually known now. There's a few companies which still have to announce things, Xreal and Android XR, for instance. I'm curious what you think next year will bring, because there have been quite a few announcements now in the last 2-3 months. It's been a busy season. I know you've had a busy time as well covering all of that, and you had done, you did a lot of travel. What do you think is interesting in the upcoming year?
Well, let's say my prediction, especially for, let's say, everything not related to smart glasses for 2026 are basically just a continuation of 2025. So I don't see, I mean, Meta delayed the headsets and whatever is going to be released for me is like, okay, maybe we'll sell some units and that's it. The Steam frame is cool. I'm not saying it is not, but it's gaming. This is their market. I mean, Valve is following its business and its audience, so that's great, but I don't think that's the key, you know, to mainstream usage by everyone, like the phone or XR or whatever. So I guess it will sell some units, probably it will be expensive, and that's it. So I don't see a huge impact in general of anything in 2026. Maybe smart glasses and AR glasses, etc., there is still a lot of hype, so maybe something can move. Meta is predicting to manufacture 10 million devices, which will be a pretty good number. So that can be the thing to follow on. Maybe it happens. Maybe it's another thing that goes into tour of disillusionment. So we don't know. We have to wait the reception of the market. But let's say everything XR related for me, which is not smart glasses, for me is going to stay like this year.
Casandra, you put something for this one as well forward. You were really curious to see how the market would respond to Android XR coming in, and you mentioned, David, as well, the various operating systems, and that they're all open to third-party vendors as well. I'm quite curious what you think is interesting in the next year.
My biggest hope is that we are going to get more open systems where just different, you know, that we don't have only silos, but, you know, systems working together more. So that if you have, like, I don't know, an Android device and an iPhone, that you can use the same headset or the same software at least and do something cool about it. Which is why I'm also actually really excited about the Steam frame, because they're the first headset releasing on SteamOS, which is an Arch Linux-based open source operating system, meaning you can do literally anything you want with it. You can even install Windows on it if you want to. You have root access. So like, we have to see what's going to happen. We have to see what the price is going to be. But if consumers are excited about it and they're going to get their hands on it, I think the modding community is just going to go crazy. And I really hope to see that, because then the possibilities are going to be endless. And I hope to see a lot more headsets like that, like open systems, where the community can just, you know, build whatever they want.
David, we saw over the last 2 years quite a few companies drop out of this market as well. Microsoft, for instance, really cutting down and scaling out. What do you think next year, sort of which companies are going to be strong, which aren't, what are going to be the surprises? What's your thought?
When it comes to Steam Frame, a lot of that success, direct success, is going to depend on the price. Right now, we only know, you know, somewhere between 500 and 1,000 roughly. Where exactly that lands matters, because, you know, as John Carmack has brought up many times before, every $100 you go down, it's not a linear increase, it's an exponential increase in the number of people that actually buy those products. And that's why you see once these headsets get down to 200, 300, they start to sell, you know, extreme volumes. So but it will be also the indirect effects of Steam Frame as an operating system, as the way in which it excites people, because before a lot of technologies become mainstream, before people can even afford to buy them, they go to a friend's house and try it, or they hear about it through their network or the magazine they read, or in these days, the YouTube and things that they watch. And then it builds up an expectation over time where years later, something does come out that they can afford, and then they buy it. So a lot of that that will matter. When it comes to headsets, though, I think it is going to be this big question of which platform gets adopted. We have all of these operating systems that in theory can go on other headsets, Horizon OS, Android XR. We know Xreal will come with Android XR, but I think it's an open question to, in 3 years from now, what are people actually running? How many headsets are there from each of these brands? But what matters now is, if you are just a hardware company and you want to make a headset, in years past, you had to also make an entire platform, right? There wasn't this option. All of these different companies were all forking Android individually, and they all have to catch up to the giants. The difference now is they have 3 different options: SteamOS, Horizon OS, and Android XR. So I think you will see in 2026 more companies jump in, especially maybe some of the Chinese companies like Xiaomi and such that can start to sell these things at ridiculously low price. The big dark horse for me in 2026, though, and the one I think a lot of people are not paying enough attention to, is Snap. Snap intends to be launching consumer AR glasses in 2026. They have said that out loud. I think they have a very, very interesting software platform that is very cleverly designed around the constraints of low compute. One of the things we talk about is apps on the display glasses, and Meta has been clear we can't do it because of the constrained compute. But Snap has essentially designed this kind of managed system and development perspective that some developers hate because they can't just run raw native code at the low level. It's very managed, but it also allows, through that management, for things to happen on glasses that shouldn't really even be able to happen on glasses in terms of being handled very well. So Snap is the one that I'm most curious about. Obviously, the current spectacles are, they're a developer kit. They're ridiculously bulky. They have a battery life of 30 or 45 minutes. But they have made big promises about their consumer hardware, and I want to see what it looks like. And yeah. But I would caution, the first generation of AR glasses, they are going to be early. We are still early. That's the last thing I just want to make so clear. Everyone keeps comparing, oh, are we at the iPhone moment? No, we're at the Apple Lisa, Apple Macintosh moment. This is still a very early industry. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit. This technology is nowhere near plateau. It's going to go very, very far from where it is today.
I'm also curious with Snap how far they will push the software side of it, Lens Studio for developing, whether they will push, you've got Snapchat now, spectacles, there's camera kits on web, there you can do it in apps, etc., mirrors, whether they push that further to other headsets at some point.
Yeah, I think what's really powerful about Snap, and I'm also super excited about Snap's consumer AR glasses next year, is that they have the software and the developers and also the user base on Snapchat. Because they got really easy tools to make AR lenses on Snapchat. So if they could kind of make it really easy for people to also develop for the Snap AR glasses, I think it's going to be really, really powerful. Because we need content. That's the thing. We're lacking content still. So.
I think that's it. You said it. I'm not sure that it is. Of course, hardware. It's amazing. We always want new hardware and lighter and better. That's why a lot of people here, I think, are building content. That's the one that should receive, let's say, the support, the help, the encouragement. And we don't need another. We do need another pair of glasses, another headset. But I think we need people to be invested, to be motivated, to be supported, and all people that many like here are pushing this industry forward. So I think that's what we need.
And we need money for these people, because that's a real problem we all have, to be honest. So.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see mixed reality content. Again, I was saying earlier that it's so early. Developers are still learning to play with it. So I think it will be interesting to see what we see from mixed reality content as a lot of the things that are still in development start to ship. But I do just want to push back that I think the hardware really does matter at this stage, just because it is such low-hanging fruit. Because someone wants to take the headset off in 10 minutes because it's hurting their face, or if the resolution is so low and pass-through that they can barely read their phone or something like that, or all of these other limitations that keep people back currently are an issue there. So with the better hardware, that content can be enjoyed by more people, and that's why it matters.
We're almost at the end. We covered this one. You already mentioned this idea. I'm really curious, when it's open ecosystems, whether Godot will get any traction. They've been pushing really hard at developing their XR technology, but whether they make it against Unity and Unreal, I'm really curious to see that in the XR space. I'm going to skip to the next one. the last one, last minute. Any other new tech? I'm really curious what Niantic Spatial will start doing now that they're focused on their future. Any other tech you guys are looking forward to for the next year?
Yeah, I think AI world models are very promising. If you saw Google's Genie 3, there are also many usages of the term AI world models, but the idea of doing an entirely generated frame like they're doing, once someone brings that to VR, would kind of be a fascinating thing to see. And very, very early, that's even earlier than everything we've just discussed, but eventually in long term, that gets us to the kind of holodeck in a way that's surprising. I never even thought that would be possible today. So look at Google's Genie 3 if you haven't already looked into that.
Any of you? Any other?
I mean, I think it's just more about what's going to happen when all these AI, large language model and image and video gets accessible and gets exploded out of the screen. What happens when these AI start understanding the world and then start understanding 3D and turn things into 3D? I think that's a bit like far off views. But that's what excites me about seeing how that evolves beyond the screen, beyond the flat surface.
Last 30 seconds.
Well, as a developer which get paid to do experience for others, I hope this AI things doesn't work in 2026, so I can still pay my rent. And let's see, actually I'm more excited in, let's say, smart glasses and what we can build, because it's a new market for us developers. There is still not a store by Meta, so maybe it's a new opportunity. Let's see.
Yeah.
Last words?
Same here. Super excited about the new smart glasses that are coming out and what they're going to do with the use cases and what's going to happen in the next year.
Cool. Thank you very much for being willing to do this.
Thanks to you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter, for putting this together.
Thank you for having us.